Hello, good morning. It's a rather wet Wednesday the 2nd. I'm FX Blue and this is the market brief. So Boris has been on. He popped over to Estonia and Poland to show a bit of support. Quite rightly, these countries are rather concerned over the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and having left the EU, Johnson wanted to reassure fellow NATO members that the UK remains committed to a point at least. UK troops will stay within the borders of NATO allies, so will not get involved in the war as things currently stand. And he ruled out imposing a no-fly zone because that would involve shooting down Russian planes. Do you think? And again, he rejected calls for British forces to get actively involved, warning, or fearing, more likely, that that would trigger a wider war with Russia. Johnson believes, or hopes more likely, that Putin's ambitions for Ukraine will be scuppered as the sanctions begin to bite. He hopes that freezing overseas assets of Putin's supporters will start to turn the tide against him. Imagine the inconvenience for an oligarch to have his yacht impounded. Shock horror. But even so, I don't think measures have gone quite that far yet. The exclusion from SWIFT has happened though, and that should add weight to any domestic concerns about Putin's actions. Johnson wants to completely remove access to the markets as he sees sanctions aimed at the Russian economy to be the most challenging for Moscow at the moment. Back home, Michael Saunders was on. He's a hawkish member of the MPC. He thinks the UK should front-load rate hikes for maximum effect on inflation, a little like the Fed are discussing in the US. Indeed, he voted for a 50 basis point hike at the last meeting, and he expects inflation to continue to rise. However, he is now concerned about the war and how that may affect the UK economy. In the markets, risk appetite remains the key driver as the war continues. Sterling continues to face selling pressure, and yesterday we fell to just over 133 against the dollar, which is where we opened today. We're around 119.75 against the euro this morning. Over in the US, we have 2 weeks before the Fed meeting. There's still plenty of disagreement about not only the size of the first rate hike, but also the level that rates will need to be increased to in this cycle. One bank even put out a report yesterday which discussed how the Fed could hike rates by 25 basis points and then a further 25 basis points at every meeting for the rest of the year. It seems a little far-fetched to me though. But the odds of a 50 basis point rate hike have fallen, and perhaps the Fed will favour a slightly more cautious 25 basis point hike until they have a better understanding of how the war in Ukraine may affect output and growth. Biden was on. He delivered the State of the Union address last night, which centred around Ukraine and plans to deal with Putin. The Ukrainian ambassador was Biden's guest and received a standing ovation, which was nice. I'm sure she'd rather have received a no-fly zone over her country, though. Can't have it all. Looking at the calendar, we have Powell's testimony to Congress, which will cover the Fed's core economic expectations. And then non-farm payrolls is due on Friday, where the forecast is currently for 450,000 new jobs. The market will be driven more by risk appetite and the developments in Ukraine, and the dollar index posted gains, topping out at around 97.60 yesterday as risk appetite fell. Euro dollar opens this morning around the 111 mark. So yeah, keep an eye out for continued volatility and do join me again tomorrow. All the best.
If you do not have a clue, then just tweet through and ask FX Blue.